Hi students, Professor Franklin here, and you are watching this video because you've missed some part or all of our printmaking workshop this semester. And I'm just wanting to talk you through the process from beginning to end here, so if you've been present for some part of this, you can skip to where you need to be. So first thing we're going to do is pick the design that we're going to use for our print. In this case, I have a book. If you were in class, for my class, I would have brought in a whole bunch of different design books to pick from, but you may need to find something on your phone or computer, and I recommend looking for whatever it is that you're trying to make an image of. Let's say your favorite flower, or something that represents a holiday that you love, or a sports team that you love. Whatever it is, you're going to try to pick a symbol that's somewhat simplified for the purposes of what we're doing. And I can suggest you might want to search for something like, let's say your favorite flower is a daisy. You might search for something like daisy line drawing. And then what you'll do is you'll take tracing paper or just a piece of regular printer paper, and you can turn your phone brightness up or your computer brightness up, tape that little piece of paper right to your screen, and then you are going to trace your image. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I have my tracing paper and I have an image that I've selected, and I'm going to trace a part of this image onto my tracing paper, and I'll come back with you once that's done. All right, so now I have my design traced. I'm going to transfer it to my soft cut linoleum. So I'll set my design book aside and bring in my block. This was wrapped in plastic. It is now unwrapped. I'm going to try to orient my design to use the least amount of the block as possible. That way I can maybe use another part of it for something else. I'm gonna just put this all the way to the edge off to one side and tack it into place. So in order to transfer the graphite from my paper to my block, I'm going to shade the back side of it like this. And you'll cover everywhere you have markings. Alternatively, you can use something like a bone folder or paper folder. So this one is made out of wood, but it's the same concept. I can use that to scrape on the back and push my design onto my piece of linoleum cut. This is a soft cut linoleum. I see I don't have the beak there, so pushing the beak on, and you can see how well and easy and clean that design transferred. I'm going to just give it a little more pressure in a couple spaces, and voila. So now you need to decide what part of your block you're going to carve away, what part of your block you're going to leave. So in this case, I am going to probably stay pretty true to the original design. So the black will be what stays, and I'll just clean it up in a few places. And the pink is going to be what I carve away, with a few exceptions, because sometimes detail is a little challenging. I am going to fill this little stand in here, just so I know that whole thing is going to stay. And where these little detail pieces are, I will probably leave the circle and then carve the line into it rather than trying to do the reverse. So I'll be back once I have my block trimmed and carved. I'm going to cut off any extra, so I'll trim my block just to save any extra work for myself like this, and then I'll get started. So you've probably ordered something that looks like this for my class. There's all different brands. This one is a Speedball linoleum cut tool, and the handle unscrews. That's where you're going to get your little tips out of. And each kit will contain all different style and size tips. So some of them are going to be a very sharp V shape. There's two different versions of that, a little bit of a more open one, and then a very narrow one for very precise work like that. These are going to be scooping up. So I'll talk about the angle to which you're going to want to come to your linoleum block in a minute, but I just want to talk about how you assemble this tool. Instinct is going to be to unscrew everything possible, but don't do that. So the handle unscrews, that's where everything will be stored, all your tips. And then the front side of it has several different components to it. So it has this jacket, this threaded jacket that's over top of everything. And then on the inside, there's also two pieces. And those two pieces are going to help to hold your tips in place. So there's a round piece, and then there's a piece that surrounds it, a little half moon shape. And these tips are all curved at the end. They're going to slide right between the two. So you'll unscrew it just a little bit. You're going to see the round part in the half moon shape. You're going to slide your tool right between the two. And you have your tool put together. It does come with a razor knife. It's not terribly effective, so in cutting my block down a little closer to size, I'm going to use a pair of scissors and an X-Acto knife, but use what you have. So if this is what you have, or a pair of scissors is what you have, work with what you have at home with you. All right, so I have my block trimmed down quite a bit, and I'm going to start the carving process. From handling it, things got a little smudged, but I can still really see my design pretty well. You can go over it in marker if that's helpful to you. So you could use, I like these Sharpies that have the finer point. They draw on this material pretty well. Or you could go back over it with a pencil. And I'm going to begin my carving process. I have on here the larger V-shaped tip. And when we're trying to figure out or understand how deep or how to work with our linoleum block, practice first on one of your cutoffs. So you'll see I'm not straight up and down. It's a little hard with the camera angle, but I'm not going to be straight up and down to my piece. I'm going to be more at an angle like this. So you're going to want to be scooping the material away, not dabbing the material straight up and down. So I'm going to scoop the material away, and you're going to start small, and then you can go a little bit deeper to see how your cuts feel. And you're going to do what works for you. Everyone is going to have a bit of a different process. So I'll come back in a little bit once I've got a good part of my block carved. All right, so I've gotten to a stage now with my carving where I want to see how it's looking and what else I still need to do. I have changed through tips a handful of times to find a tip that works for the different techniques I'm using. One of the things that I do that I find really helpful is I'll go and outline most of my shapes before I take out the bulk of the material. So I've outlined my leaves in order to give my tool a stopping point as I'm working towards it. So I'm going to now pull out either a roller and some ink and something to roll out my ink on, but for quick cleanup for myself right now just for this demonstration. I'm just going to use an ink pad, and these are available at places like Michael's, or even the dollar store should have something like this. And I'm going to ink up my piece. And take a look at what I still need to do. There's a little bit of chatter or noise in the background here, so I'll clean up some of my leaves, a little bit on my stem here, and this little berry peeking over the top. But by and large, I'm pretty happy with how this looks, and I'll just fuss with it a little bit and then probably be pretty close to being done. Alright, so I've done a little bit of cleanup to my block, and I'm going to do another print here and see how it looks. You can see from this little pile of pink, that's what I've taken off. Might need to do more, but you can see shortly how just a little bit of cleanup will really change. The chatter. And I didn't have enough ink on my block, but you can see that some of these edges are looking a little better. I have a little more to do, but I think you get the gist. Have a happy day.